All right, what's good? What's good? What's popping? So, as per my previous live stream, right? When I was critiquing the several different philosophies such as MGTOW, SYSBM, and the passport bro philosophy, and stated how these philosophies shifted from being supposedly male-centered philosophies that was about uplifting, improving, and progressing males to then converting over to becoming female centered philosophies, in which these philosophies would just use as a front for simps to constantly complain about females, right? So then, uh, Game Changer and Man Tomorrow came on the panel, and ANT came on the panel and gave their opinion, and the conversation sort of then shifted, which a lot of times I hate that shit. I don't like that shit. I like people to stay on topic, but nonetheless, a lot of times this happens on panels where the conversation shifted. It went from critiquing these movements or these philosophies to then people assuming that I was shaming the aspect of males going overseas and experiencing females from other cultures in which I wasn't doing so, right? But nonetheless, right? Nonetheless, I was accused of uh or nonetheless, people, there was an argument where people was talking about how we need to stop policing black males or the policing. Yo, what up, Shaka Nulu? Where it was talking about where people need to stop policing black males and stop shaming black males and what have you for for wanting to go to other cultures and do whatever they want to do and having agency. I'm basically just paraphrasing what was said, that so-called black males shouldn't be policed for utilizing agency. And if anyone knows me or if anyone's familiar with my content, you know damn well I am not for that. Yeah, that you are absolutely correct. Shaka Nulu. You kept on saying that, and you was correct. That's why I was highlighting your comments on the panel when it happened, right? Because you was right. There was two different arguments going on because what was being argued had nothing to do with the topic of discussion, right? So there's a misunderstanding, you know. So basically, what? Okay, so based on the notion of people stating that how black males need to stop being policed for utilizing agency. Therefore, it was a misunderstanding where it was assumed that my criticism of these certain philosophies that I was criticizing, right? Or to be more specific, my criticism of the passport bro movement was a form of shaming or policing black male agency. Now, once again, like I said before, if anyone is familiar with my content, they know that I am totally against policing black males, right? So it seems to be a misunderstanding where think that people mistake criticism for policing. And those two things are two totally different things. And that's an ongoing thing when it comes to criticism. Whenever someone gives criticism to a specific group of people or just a specific thing, it seems as though someone who at least do not like that criticism or disagrees with the criticism, we're trying to find some way to accuse the person making that criticism of either policing or shaming or being biased against the certain group that they're critiquing. And when you look up the definition of policing and critiquing, right? Policing, and I stated this in that live stream, is when someone is enforcing laws upon someone else, right? Policing is when someone enforce laws upon someone else. So in the case of males in America going to another country and doing whatever they want to do in that other country, I don't have the power to enforce any laws upon any males or females who choose to do so. As a matter of fact, I don't have the power to enforce any laws on anyone. So I can't police anyone. I literally cannot police anyone. Right? And I don't even try to police anyone. But when you look up the definition of criticism, you see that when I spoke about the Passport Bro movement, my opinions on the Passport Bro movement fits the definition of criticism. Now, I don't have the power to police anyone, but I do have the right to criticize what I see and observe. Reading Shaka Nulu's statements in the comments. He said your point was the Passport Bro movement was a particular movement, but these guys now are just about buying it. Yeah, they made it exactly. They made it. They totally shifted what it was to be a Passport Bro and made it into a movement where they revolve traveling around a female vagina. It's deeper than just making it about buying some kitty cat. They made the movement revolving around pedestalizing vagina. And that's what I'm against. I'm not against people, males seeking and speaking to females. I'm against this over pedestalization of a female's vagina. Because the over pedestalizing in general, the female vagina is like the downfall of a lot of males. And that's not the female's fault. That's the male's fault. I can't blame the females for this. I blame the males for this because pedestalizing vagina is a choice that males choose to make. And that choice leads to their own detriment, right? Shaka Newly said, I could make the same argument of these same black dudes criticizing or policing black. Thank you. Thank you. I was about to get to that. Yes. Thank you. Exactly. Exactly. Right. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Exactly. Thank you, Shaka Nulu. Exactly. Exactly. New. Thank you. If I recall, back in 2011, they were talking about traveling, looking for wives. Now it's just vag. Thank you. Exactly. Thank you. But going back to what I was saying about the difference between policing and criticism, right? Criticism is when policing is when you enforce laws upon someone else, but criticism is when you give your opinion based on what you observe. So when I spoke about my take on the Passport Bro movement, I was giving an opinion on what I observe. That's called criticism. And usually, like I said, when you give your criticism online, people want to gaslight you. So it seems as though when you give your criticism on the Passport Bro movement, whenever someone accuse you of policing, in which I was accused of doing so, no disrespect to anyone, it seems as though, well, no, it doesn't seem as though what was being done, what's behind that is to gaslight the person making the criticism. Right? When someone making a criticism and accused of policing black males, it's The reason why someone do is to gaslight the person making the criticism in order to try to silence that in hopes to silence that person making the criticism, and to try to discourage anyone else from listening to that person's criticism by making that person look like the villain. It's basically the same logic. I'm headed to the point that Shaka Nulu made in the comment section. It's sort of like when someone criticized the bad behavior of females, right? Or of a certain sect of females. Online, if someone, especially a male, were to give their opinion critiquing the bad behavior of a certain sect of females, what are they always accused of as a result of them doing that? They're accused of being misogynistic, right? In which, when you look up the definition of misogyny or misogynistic, it has nothing to do, the definition has nothing to do with critiquing the bad behavior of a certain sect of females. Misogyny is basically the belief that the female gender is somehow inferior from the male gender. That's basically, in a nutshell, in a simplistic nutshell, the definition of misogyny. So when someone critiques the bad behavior of a female, that basically does not fit the definition of what misogyny is. But nonetheless, that person, especially if it's a male that's doing the criticizing, will be accused of being misogynistic. And the reason behind that accusation is to gaslight the male making that criticism as a way to silence that male, and also as a way to demonize that male, for so anyone else for to discourage anyone else from listening to what that male has to say, by making him look evil, by making him look like this bad guy who hates females just because he's criticizing the bad behavior of a certain sect of females. So these things are used to silence and demonize those making criticism. And guess what? People within the Passport Bro movement have adopted that same strategy when they try to gaslight anyone making any type of criticism to the movement, especially if it's a criticism that they dislike or disagree with. Exactly. 3 words to the definition: disdain, distrust, and hate. Now, to me, to me, it's like it doesn't make sense for a person to try to gaslight anyone making criticisms, because when you okay, when you place anything, or when you go on an open forum like YouTube, right, which is basically the most, if not one of the most popular open forums in the world, and you present anything on there on this open forum, you are putting yourself in a position where you're open to criticism. Therefore, if you have people within a certain movement who are out there parading fucking prostitutes, right, and placing it on an open forum like YouTube, in response you'll be met with opinions. Some opinions will some people's opinions will possibly, support this notion. Others will have a different opinion on that. So nonetheless, whatever you place on YouTube, you're open to criticism. And I don't see how it makes sense for those making that criticism to be demonized and gaslighted just for making their opinions. Now, if you disagree with someone's opinions, then disagree. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to have a different perspective from someone's opinions. But what it's not okay to do is gaslight someone for having that opinion. So, If I make an opinion about the passport bro movement and I state that the movement or the philosophy is now revolved around males traveling overseas simply to gain sexual access to females overseas, thus to me, they're adopting a sit mentality because doing so means that you're revolving, traveling around a female's vagina. And whenever you do things that revolves around a female vagina, to me, that makes you a simp. Now is actually traveling and actually speaking to females and dating females a form of sipping? No. But if you make females the end all be all to why you're traveling to another country, once again, you're adopting the same mindset as a simp when you're revolving things around a female vagina. When you make traveling, when you make vagina or the females the end all be all to why you decide to travel, then you're revolving traveling specifically around the female vagina. And once again, when you revolve things specifically around getting vagina, simply around access to sex, you're adopting the same mentality as a simp because a simp revolve things around a female vagina. This is very simple. And accusing me of policing or attempt to police black males for just making that observation is a form of gaslighting. What up, China White? What up? What up? It is a form of gaslighting. Now, it's okay to disagree with my take. It's okay to say, "Hey, wacky word of I don't agree with that." It's okay, but don't sit there and say that my observation, what I observe, and my or what I yeah, what I observe and my criticisms is a form of dang policing. Because what I'm doing is not policing. What I said, well, not what I'm doing, what I my viewpoint upon the current state of the passport bro movement is not a form of policing because I'm not enforcing any laws. I don't have the power to. I'm just simply giving an opinion based on my observation, which is what the definition of criticism is. But once again, criticism on the internet or those who make a criticism on the internet usually become demonized and gaslighted. And that's not right. What's up, China? What's up? What this passport bros tend to look cha- excuse me. I'm sorry. Let me reread that. Passport bros tend to be looks challenged, ugly. That's a valid criticism because I don't see too many handsome men who claim the passport bro movement. Oh well, I mean, I don't look at men on that level, you know. I mean, of course, there are men who are considered handsome, there are men who are not, but I don't. All right, you know, that's your opinion, you know. As a matter of fact, years ago in the chat, I stopped traveling for Vag. Them dudes turned on me so fast. Oh, word? For real? Damn, they turned on you. Damn, that's crazy. Okay, wacky. What we're simply hearing is the defense force coming out to defend Simply, which was the title of your last stream. Yeah, yeah. Well, the words, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that see, yeah, and that's the thing. Once again, I think it's a real. I think it's real damaging to trying to gaslight someone for having an opinion that you disagree with. I don't think people understand how the negative impact of that. It is a dangerous thing to gaslight someone who happens to have an opinion that you don't agree with and or do not like. Because when you do that, right? Basically what you're trying to do or what you are doing or attempting to do is manipulate the perception of a person who's utilizing their free speech by making that person look evil, look as the oddball out. And why would you want to do that? Why would you want to make a person who's utilizing their free speech to be some sort of evil individual just because they have and are expressing an opinion that you somehow disagree with? If you don't agree with an opinion, just respond with a disagreement and keep it moving. That's it. But that's what I see. That's like a thing that has always existed, not only on the internet but in society in general. Whenever someone expresses an opinion that someone else may not like or agree with, people always come with these forms of gaslighting to try to make that person look as if they're doing something wrong for just expressing an opinion or criticism. Nah, man. Nah. Can't do that, man. Do that. And in the sense of my criticisms of the passport bro movement, nah, it's not policing, bro. And I don't appreciate someone trying to gaslight me for making a criticism. Nah. But in general, whenever you go into these passport bro spaces and you state an opinion such as mine's, you will always be met with these gaslighting tactics. And like I said, I don't appreciate that. Nah. Nah. Mm-mm. Once again, there's a difference between policing and criticism. Most people do not have the power to police anyone, but all people have the right to give their criticism. And when you give criticism, you're only giving an opinion based on what you observe or what you have observed. And how is that? And the thing is, and once you give your opinion based on what you have observed, you're not enforcing any law on another person, which is a definition of policing. You're not enforcing any laws on another person when you give an opinion. You're just expressing what you see. And people have the right to do that. Now, anyhow, that's all I just wanted to say, man. You know, don't allow anyone to try to demonize you or gaslight you for having an opinion and expressing that opinion. Mm-mm. Yeah. Recognize that if you, whether, no matter where you are, you've expressed an opinion about something, be real careful and be real privy of those who will try to take your opinion and trying to use it against you to try to make you look bad and trying to make you look as if you're doing something that you're not really doing. You know? That's all I have to say about that, man. I'm out. Peace.